All right, thank you, Mrs. Zibon, and thank you to all of our speakers. We now open the floor for questions, but because of time, we are only allowing for 3 questions. So as mentioned earlier, if you have a question, please raise your hand, and our ushers will bring the microphone to you. I already see a hand raised here with Mr. Chong Seng. Thank you.
Recently, I read a paper by François Baguette and Dr. Bruno Santerre, where they make a very persuasive case that Lagati is a native. Is SIF aware of this paper, and will that affect your policy with regards to Lagati?
So the study started in 2012. Can you tell me which year this paper was?
I think it was probably 2019 when François Baguette was on Silhouette.
Okay. So as you can see, we didn't get the information that they were natives at that time. So we're controlling them as invasive species.
So my question is, will the policy now change, or are you going to be business as usual?
Dr. Constance? Dr. Constance?
Yes, I think if I may add to that, Lindsay, I think invasive species sometimes can also be native. And I think that it's really a fine line. That's why it's a bit intriguing. But for us, it's important to understand sort of the impacts. And as you have seen with the numbers, Agati, it's quite numerous in the Vallée des Mers, suggesting that it's really dominating the resources and threaten the, for sure, native species. So I don't know if that answers your question.
All right, thank you for your question and answers. We do have another question at the front table, please.
Thank you. Paul Lebon from the Tourism Department. It was a short question with regards to the first presentation of the afternoon that we had. I just wanted to know concerning the chameleons. So with regards to on curious, I think it was mentioned, for example, that not with regards to the chameleons, it's regarding the on curious that the Trachygaster, I'm talking about the gecko, not the chameleon, sorry about that. So are there plans to introduce Trachygaster to curious? Because you mentioned that with the Sunbergi, the current gecko, the pollination is very slow. So, and then therefore that the canopy is not very thick, and that could be an issue. So are there any plans or any limitations with regards to that? Thank you.
Question. I thought somebody might ask this. The reason it's a good question is because it's quite a complex answer. When you translocate a species, you have to look at why that species isn't there in the first place. Now, giant bronze geckos probably were on curious at some point, also because prawn and curious would have been joined when the sea levels were lower. But right now, there isn't really the habitat on curious for a species that needs a connected canopy. I don't think it would survive on curious. So until there's the habitat there, until there's more like connected, mature Coupe-de-Mer forest, it's not a suitable place for Trachygaster. But Trachygaster needs to be somewhere else at some point. I think for now, to be honest, captive breeding is probably the most appropriate for it, which is going to be tricky, a long process, but it's only in one place, in one habitat. it's one of the most endangered species in the Seychelles. So it does need some help. But Curious right now is not really the best place for it.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
We can now allow for one more question. Sorry, Dr. Hokamoa at the back had his hand up first.
Yeah, thank you for these 3 nice talks. I'll catch up with some of you, because I wanted to ask a few things also to Shannon and Monica. But I wanted to ask Maria about the nesting of the chameleons on Vallée de Mai. Do you have any records of nests of chameleons? And if so, in which kind of plants, or whether it is in the on the ground?
So thank you, Dr. Okamoa, for your questions. I really would not know where they nest, because this is something that we need to, like I said, we need further research to understand how this species functions, where it nests, where's the nesting sites in the Vallée de Mai, or even the entire Praslin, and as well as other informations. So maybe Nancy would be more inclined to answer this question, if she knows. Thank you.
I think Nancy has frozen. Maybe as a result of the question. And until she is defrozen, I can tell you that in Mahé, I know of a few records of nests in pineapple. But that's quite a very rare occurrence, and I don't know, maybe my neighbor Pat Mathiot will know.
Is Nancy back?
In light of our internet issues, we have Dr. Jim Labisco, who's willing to comment on the matter.
With regards to nesting, as far as we're aware, they're ground nesters, so they come down to the forest floor, and they'll burrow into the soil, and they'll lay their eggs in the soil. That's why the breeding is connected to the extent of rainfall, because no rain, hard soil. Excuse me, sorry. No rain, hard soils. The chameleons can't then come down and dig a hole in which to lay their eggs. So, yeah.
When Marc Jean-Baptiste was doing his surveys on Praslin, he came to Mahé, and we went to La Réserve at Bon Espoir. And as we came down, having found about 19 chameleons on the palms, Babel Koch, who was there, in a very sarcastic voice said, "And there is a chameleon nest," pointing at the Zanana mousticaine at the base of the Bon Espoir. And to her surprise, she looked inside it, because I think she was being a bit sarcastic, because they had talked to Justin Gerlach, and he said he'd tried night survey and it doesn't work on silhouette. So they still went ahead and did it and found that it worked beautifully. And to our surprise, there were eggs inside there. I took 2 of the eggs, I took them home, and they hatched into babies. So I can confirm.
They might multitask as well.
Thank you. Because of time, I will allow for 2 more questions. Yes, Dr. Dockley Mr. Dockley had his hand up, followed by the girl in the blue shirt in the middle table, 3rd from the front. So you can start.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for allowing me to ask a question.
I beg your indulgence. I've got 3 short questions. They can be answered with yes or no, something like that. The first one was for Dr. Nancy Bunbury, but any one of you can answer that. It's about the Aileronyx or giant bronze gecko. Was it the one that is specific on Praslin? Because I understand there's a species that is found in the Vallée du Mai, and there is this other species that is found on Silhouette, Mahe, and other places. So the one that she was talking about, is it the specific one or both of them? The second one, that is a yes or no. The second question is, it's about the 15 years. I remember Terence Pyatt said that the bird lives for 15 years. I know that some birds live for 40 years. Has that been established, or is it possible that the black parrot lives for a longer period of time? And the third question has got to do with the young lady that was presenting with Terence. Sorry, I didn't catch on. I didn't write down your name. It's about the minor birds. Did you see any correlation with the number of eggs and chicks that you were losing during the period that you did that for rats, but I didn't see that you did it for the minor during the time that the number of minor birds were increasing, the population was increasing within Vallée du Mai? Did you see any correlation between the amount of eggs and chicks that you were losing? Was there any correlation between the two? Thank you very much.
The Trachygaster question was yes, it's the Trachygaster in the valley. Yes. You misunderstood on the 15 years of the parrots. Currently, we have birds that were ringed at the start of the parrot project in 2010. They were adults at the time. We don't know how. They were ringed as adults. They are still alive now. They are still breeding now. So we know they live a minimum of 15 years. We don't know how long, how much longer. It will only be once we have ones that we have ringed as a chick and we have followed through their lifespan that we can give a definitive. So right now we're purely on a minimum. 15 is the lowest number it can be. But you're right that birds do live a lot longer. We expect that if they're still breeding members of the population now that were ringed at the start. So until the project goes on, we won't know that answer. And with the minor question, so that graph of the eggs, chicks, and hatchlings, that was eggs, chicks, and fledglings, that was all together, not specifically rats or minors. So that was just the success rate. So at the start, we noticed that we lost more at egg stage. So we would lose a lot more nests when they had eggs in. And we would lose some chicks, but we wouldn't lose all that many chicks. In later years, we've started to see that we are still losing at egg stage, and now also losing more at chick stage. It is conjecture to think that maybe it could be due to the increase in the minors. We presume that the rat numbers are stable. The rats have, they've as many as they have been. It's that's the level in Praslin. But the minor numbers is on the rise, which could be why maybe they're impacting more. So this year, we lost a quarter of our nest. Last breeding season, we lost a quarter of our nest to suspected rat predation, and we lost half to suspected minor predation at eggs and chicks. So we have parrot eggs that have been stabbed by a minor with a beak-shaped hole in them, and then we had chicks with multiple stab wounds all over their body where they've just been kind of beaten up and left to die in the nest. So when the rats rip the eggs open, and they also eat the chicks when they kill them. So you can see the difference. So we're seeing more of the the minor attack. Well, bird attacks. We can't say minors for definite, but bird attacks.
All right,
Anything
thank
else?
you.
No?
Okay. All right, thank you for that. We had one more question in the middle table. Am I correct for that? Yes. Can we please get a microphone to the middle table for one last quick question?
Hello, I'm Zoe. I'm with Nature Seychelles, and first of all, I just want to say that all of those presentations were super interesting. I've written down all your names because I think it's such an amazing thing to be able to come up and talk about these things so confidently, and I sometimes think people overlook that. Presenting is not easy, but my kind of question is mainly for Monica. I was really interested when you said you were thinking about you're getting frustrated with these minor birds. And you were talking about maybe relocating to Silhouette. I was just super interested in the process of that. Do you have to kind of look around and see what factors could potentially be difficult with relocating? Do you have to look at do a survey with the minor birds there, the rats there? I was just wanting to know a little bit more about that.
The Silhouette talks, is that on? Yeah. The talks for the translocation are still in the very early stages. We will be needing to take into account those sorts of things, but as yet, we're still just on sitting around a table discussing. I would imagine that miners in particular, they are a growing threat. So I would, that will be something that we need to take into consideration. But the case for the translocation is not just related to the miners. It is that as Praslin is becoming more developed, the parrots are losing habitat, and the populations is highly vulnerable by just being on a single island. One massive storm could knock them out. So by splitting the population, having an insurance on an island far enough away that it shouldn't be impacted by the same storm or circumstances. It's a sort of safety net. So it's related to everything, not specifically to the miners. Does that cover that?
Yeah. All right, thank you very much for all the questions. If you do have any more burning questions, I do suggest that you meet with our speakers after our sessions because we are running behind schedule. Without further ado, let's have a round of applause for our speakers.